The battle begins again every morning. Their home is sinking into the ocean beneath them. More and more people on Java's northern coast time their lives to match the tides. They've adapted to the invading ocean and aren't giving up. Timbulsloko, an aquatic world 400 kilometers east of the megacity of Jakarta. About 150 families once lived in this northern Javanese village, but since the ocean began forcing its way into their homes, a third have left. Those who remain either can't afford a house on the mainland or refuse to leave their home and Timbulsloko behind. The residents were mostly rice farmers until the early 2000s, but many switched to farming fish when saltwater began to ruin harvests, pushing them to ruin. That business is now also collapsing. The rising waters have swallowed almost everything. The once bustling main street, fields and gardens, stores and workshops, playgrounds. Electricity and fresh water are still running. Timbulsloko is now sinking by up to 15 centimeters a year, thanks to climate change, land subsidence, and coastal erosion. Increasingly violent waves and currents have battered the fish farms for years. Even the once well-established mangrove forests have been torn apart and washed away. Hectare by hectare, the ocean has consumed the fertile landscape that was once home to rice paddies and lush fruit and vegetable plantations. For most of her life, Sunati has begun her day with boiled taro. She still lives in the same farmhouse she grew up in.
I can't leave Timbulsloko. I don't want to. It's full of memories. My parents, my husband, my son are buried here. All my siblings still live here. Timbulsloko is my life. Some mornings, I get so tired of wiping down the floors, scrubbing away the mud all over again. This water drives me crazy. The next day, it's back again. I have to clean everything again. It hasn't stopped for a day since 2014. Sometimes the mud hardens so much it's hard to get rid of. The house always smells damp. Worse is that the tide washes all kinds of things into the house.
Sunati's house stands on the very edge of Timbulsloko, like an ocean breakwater. Off to work.
Besides rice, the fields used to grow chili peppers, cucumbers, and tomatoes, melons, peanuts. I loved riding my bicycle here, surrounded by clouds of butterflies and dragonflies. I'd bathe in the stream. There were red and yellow flowers everywhere. I still miss the smell of the rice fields. Everything just smells of seawater now.
A dike now connects Timbulsloko to the mainland, nearly a kilometre away. A dozen kilometres farther in, at the Sayong market, Sunati works as a produce buyer.
You're trying to ruin me. It's hard to make a living. The main thing for me is that it's honest work. Work that's respected. Way too expensive. How much for these 3?
4 special price.
One day, I'll have my own shop. Vegetables, fresh vegetables. It's hot, and the produce is so heavy. In the end, I make so little. I need to save. I want to raise my house again. I've already done it 3 times. If I can do it once more, my place will finally look like my neighbors' homes. Higher floors and higher ceilings. Then I won't keep hitting my head and having to bend over all the time.
Sunati has built a miniature version of her old world on the water.
I paid a lot of money to raise the stone floors in my house. 3 times. This won't be the last time. When will it end? The water gets higher every year. I remember it was like yesterday, 2014, in the middle of the night. Water suddenly flooded into the house for the first time. I was asleep on my mattress and almost drowned. All the neighbors were screaming and running around. I froze in panic and didn't know where to go. All kinds of animals have swum into the house. Fish, shrimp, even water snakes, and horseshoe crabs. I'm afraid of them. They can stab you like a knife.
The farmers switched to aquaculture in 2010 after the rice fields disappeared under the water for good. Business initially boomed, but it didn't last. Waves tore the nets apart. People lost not only their income, but their savings too. Sunati and her neighbours now rely on fishing, which she usually does alongside her childhood friend Zubaydah. They've worked together once before, back in the rice fields.
Slowly but surely, that's how we catch fish. We'll get them.
We know what we're doing.
That's right. It wasn't easy going, so suddenly from farming to fishing, it wore me out. Some days I can't stay home. Everything feels easier out on the sea. Nature is relaxing.
So humid today.
And so muddy too.
Oh dear.
Today there's no wind. I worry I won't make it back to the boat when the winds get strong. A terrible storm once caught me by surprise. The sky suddenly lit up with lightning. Then the rain started, heavy. I was trapped here for about 3 hours. I just cried. I thought I was going to die.
The ocean's my friend when it feeds me. Not when the tide rises, though. Then the water turns unbearably cold.
So far, Zubaydah and I have made it through everything together. Grouper and even crabs.
There's nothing in here. The fish are mocking us.
Your net is all holes once again.
Everything got away.
A fish buyer comes by once a day. She profits the most from everyone's catch. Sunati and Zubaydah receive only a fraction, but they're reliant on her.
Too small.
Small, yes, but nice and flat. Another fantastic catch. Everything's fresh.
Last time, your crabs were already dead when I got to the market.
We're supposed to believe that? Only 16,000, but thanks.
16,000. I'll be rich.
Sometimes the ocean comes flooding into Zubaydah's house, even at low tide. That's set to change soon, though. Her husband, Suramin, has found cheap used wood. He had to go into debt. They have 2 children. Their son works construction in Bali. Their daughter studies on the mainland. Since the loss of their fields and fish ponds, Suramin now gets by as a fisherman and day labourer. Women now like to gather at Sunati's house. She sells whatever she can throughout the day.
It tastes so sweet.
Humour helps the women gain distance from their dire circumstances.
Now at least I'm not slipping on the mud in my house anymore. I don't run into water snakes anymore either. One time I stepped on a huge one. I screamed like crazy. I was mopping the floor when I felt the snake under my foot. It was thick as my arm and I stepped right on it. I was terrified, covered in goosebumps. I dropped everything, ran away and cried like a baby.
A long-awaited delivery arrives just in time for the Eid al-Fitr celebration, marking the end of Ramadan. Wood, essential for Timbulsloko's battle against the rising tide. Heavy cargo has to be brought to the village by water. Zubaida's husband Suramin also helps with the repairs. A never-ending task.
These new boards won't even last 5 months in this salt water. We'll have to replace them again. If the community runs out of money, each of us chips in what we can. We stick together here. When I think about how good life used to be, the land in Timbulsloko was so fertile, I didn't just grow rice. I also raised watermelons, chili peppers and peanuts. Until the salt water came. After that, the fish ponds disappeared too. It was traumatic. The ocean took away our livelihood. There used to be so many stores on both sides here, always full of goods. There were food stores where I'd buy fried snacks. The road was paved and packed with cars and motorcycles, noisy traffic. It was at least 14 meters wide, big enough for trucks and buses. Timbulsloko used to feel like a big city.
In Timbulsloko, even the dead are sinking beneath the floodwaters. The ocean has already swept away some of the gravestones. 10 years ago, villagers built a barrier of bamboo and old tires around the cemetery to break the waves, but storms tear it up again during every rainy season. The villagers also hope to protect their dead this year before Ramadan. They pray for success before they start repairs. Sunati's son was buried here 15 years ago, alongside his father and grandparents. The cemetery has preserved the history and soul of this now slowly disappearing village for generations. Selamet was 19 when he died in a motorcycle accident. He reached the same age as his father, who died of illness shortly after marriage. Sunati was 7 months pregnant with Selamet.
When I see Sulamet's grave so deep in the water, I'm afraid of losing him all over again. It feels like he's dying a second time. I wish I had died instead of him. I'm already old at 50, but he was so young and strong. How could he die at 19? How could he? I still can't accept it.
Timbulsloko's walkways now only fill up on weekends. During the week, it feels more like a ghost town, inhabited only by children and the elderly. Younger generations study or work in the nearby city of Semarang. The people of Timbulsloko are deeply religious, even the young ones. The entire village gathers regularly in the largest of the 3 mosques, especially during Ramadan.
Delicious. I come alive when I'm with my people. Yes, very delicious. We're very close because we've gone through so much and are still fighting. The hardships have brought us closer together. Another reason I want to stay here rather than on the mainland. I only feel this kind of closeness here in Timbulsloko. I don't want to leave and be torn away from my world. My friends and neighbors give me warmth and strength. We encourage each other.
Family ties are also an essential part of Timbulsloko's survival. Several generations usually live together under one roof.
I have to take care of my mother. She doesn't want to leave Timbulsloko, so I stay here with her. That's our tradition. My mother is very old and is waiting for death.
Zubaydah shares the work with her younger sister Sulazmi, who lives next door.
I've always had to take care of other people. That's why I never went to school. My mother worked in the fields. I looked after my siblings. Life didn't go well for me. The water keeps rising. One day we'll have to leave. But when we go, we'll go together. I can't imagine being without my extended family, my neighbors, and my friends. It would break me.
The village is sinking before our eyes. But how am I supposed to start over from nothing on the mainland? What money would I use to buy land and build a house with? Our only hope is government support so we can relocate as a community and build a new Timbulsloko somewhere else.
How would I make a living on the mainland? I'm already old. No factory would hire me now.
Only the children in Timbulsloko think of life on the water as normal. They've known nothing else. The villagers want to repair the barrier around the cemetery in 3 days, just in time for Eid al-Fitr, the festivities at the end of Ramadan. They used to raise the money themselves, but now the local government helps pay for it.
Quickly but carefully.
Muslim has overseen the construction several times now.
It's tough steering such a heavy bamboo raft through the water, especially today, with the strong waves and currents. It really won't help much. Bamboo doesn't last long. We need a concrete barrier. But who's going to pay? If our dead could speak, they'd probably ask us where the floodwaters will carry them next. My brother was buried here recently, and I felt completely helpless.
It's really happening. I can't believe it.
With help from a neighbor, Suramin hopes to finish work on the house before Eid al-Fitr.
I was lucky enough to find this used wood from a demolished house. It was much cheaper than buying new wood. I put the house up on construction rubble the last 3 times, but the waves quickly washed it away.
I hate this water, always washing in all kinds of trash, cockroaches everywhere afterward. And I hate having to hang up dishes and clothes all the time, and slipping on the slick floors. It's finally over for now. What makes me happiest is that for the first time in ages, relatives can come visit us at home again.
When aquaculture collapsed, Suramin had no choice but to become a fisherman.
Some days I feel like crying. Too many fishermen for this little area. And the waves keep getting stronger and driving the fish away. In half a day, I didn't even catch 2 kilos of perch and sea bream, even though the sea is calm today. This should actually be a good day for fishing. But this is all I caught. And now my gear is falling apart too.
A race against the tide.
This bamboo will only last a few months. Then it'll rot and splinter. If someone died, we wouldn't even know how to dig a grave in the water.
There's another race against the tide. At Zubaydah and Suramin's home before the water floods their construction site.
I can't put anything on the floor anymore. The water washes it away. Everything's up on wooden platforms. First, the salt water destroyed everything valuable. The radio, the fan, the television, even the wardrobe and all the clothes. I eventually had to throw away the bed too. The refrigerator was in the water. Now I've put it on a platform and moved the power outlet higher up. The worst part for me is cooking with my legs in filthy, muddy water. I can't sleep peacefully anymore either. The water keeps rising, and I'm afraid of almost drowning in my bed again like before. Especially at night, when the wind slams the waves against the house, I worry that the outer wall will collapse. The fact that my siblings still live in Timbulsloko helps me persevere, and I'm even happy sometimes.
Soon there'll be fireworks and sweets.
We're out of money. and I still have to pay off the rebuilding. For the next 5 or 6 months, I'll have to work in a factory every day and slowly save up the money. The water is already more than 50 centimeters high inside the house.
I feel like I've lost everything, nothing left but water. Maybe we really should try to start over somewhere else.
I've raised the house 3 times, 70 centimeters in total. Now I'm raising it another 70. It's never going to end. I can't keep thinking about it or I'll go crazy. Sometimes I pretend nothing is happening, turn a blind eye. We're used to it by now.
All we can really do is adapt. What other choice do we have?
Hundreds of breakwaters and young mangrove forests are the final attempt to keep the surf away from Timbulsloko. Other villages cut down the natural structure for fuel or to make room for more fish farms. The power of the waves from those now barren areas has also destroyed the mangrove forests around Timbulsloko. Zubeida and Sunati have been helping with Professor Denis Sugianto's mangrove restoration project for years. He's an environmental scientist who comes from the region and is working to restore and replant mangroves. Public funding and donations have made it possible to plant more than 20 hectares in the Timbulsloko area alone.
Don't go too far.
Not too far.
I'm stuck, completely stuck. Pull me out. Without their dedication, we'd never have achieved this much. Plant the seedlings one by one. In the end, though, our efforts can only slow the process of land erosion. The sediment deposits along Java's northern coast are geologically young and very vulnerable. Tie them together tightly. According to our simulations, in 100 years, a vast area here will be completely underwater. It's an area that's today still urban, 2 to 4 kilometers in from the current coastline. Global warming is raising sea levels. At the same time, the groundwater is disappearing. So land in populated industrial areas is sinking. And all the industrial facilities along the coast are disrupting the natural ocean currents that would carry sediment here, from west to east, toward Timbulsloko. The village may survive a while longer, but if the government fails to fully protect the coastline, or if residents lose motivation and give up on their environment, Timbulsloko could disappear within 20 years. It would be just a memory. The land in this region is currently sinking by up to 15 centimeters a year. That could add up to 1.5 meters in 10 years.
A government program has already evacuated several villages in the region. Others are stuck in survival mode, like Timbulsloko and neighboring Bugurame. Bugurame's Muslim school closed long ago. There are no wooden walkways left. High tide traps residents inside their homes. Scientists have called the unstoppable loss of land along Java's northern coast a slow disaster. In Timbulsloko, people respect Selamet as a spiritual elder. The ocean took everything from him too, his fields as well as his fish ponds.
When you experience a natural disaster, you mustn't give in to anger. The tide is far more powerful than any human being. One day I heard a voice inside me, the voice of the ocean goddess Makila. In my despair, I asked her about my future and the right path forward. Makila came to me. She was totally transparent. She said, "Don't let yourself dissolve into grief. It will only hurt you." I was weeping inside. But in that moment, I became enlightened. Makila whispered to me, "Your village will not disappear. You, your children and your grandchildren, all of you will continue living here. That's why I will never leave this village. The ocean isn't our enemy. The ocean is part of nature, just as we are. We are one."
Now Ramadan's begun. There aren't any women passing by here on their way to school. Now these expensive goods will spoil. This will be another year without building on the house. Whatever happens, I'm not afraid. My son follows me like a shadow. Selamet is always with me, as if he were still alive.
Another race against the storm.
We feel so weak because we're fasting during Ramadan. But we have to keep going. If the clouds pass over, we'll make it. We owe that to our dead. and to the living who will pray here for Eid.
My son is in the water, but I won't let him disappear under it. One day he'll rest in a stone grave. I promised him that, and I will keep that promise. I survived so much in my life, and that has made my will even stronger. I can't bring myself to leave Timbulsloko. To me, that would feel like abandoning my son, my own flesh and blood, and leaving him at the mercy of the ocean. Sulamet still lives here.
The last day of building.
Nice and high.
Lever it up higher.
The last day is the most tricky.
My cracked feet won't hurt and itch anymore. It's always salt water, not just inside the house. We often wash with it too. Sometimes it's the only thing that comes out of the tap.
I bet in 3 years at the latest, we'll have to raise everything up the same amount again.
The first big feast inside the house in 4 years.
I feel so sorry for Sunarti. She's alone without a husband, still living in a house full of water where you can't even sit down. I'm sure she feels ashamed she still hasn't managed to rebuild.
What a wonderful drink.
Now you're smiling again.
The ritual feast that breaks the final fast, the end of Ramadan.
I don't listen to the government or the scientists who say Timbulsloko will sink into the ocean one day and that we'll all have to leave. Only God knows our fate. The water has made us stronger. Our fighting spirit is still alive, and so is our joy in life.
Berjuang podo semangat kabeh.